back. Of course, you know what it is. We're going to get right into these player introductions, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Deadwing, my former favorite map, no longer in the map pool, but of course, it is your teal Terran. Representing A-Fire Gaming, it is TerranItUp.
And in the top right corner, our red Protoss player. Can he make it happen once again? This is tnerb.
Yeah, Deadwing, pretty big map. Of course, 4-player. After the patch, it was no longer horizontal spawns, and both these players should know that. So they're going to be cross spawns. They'll find that out shortly enough once this probe makes his way around the map to see what he can see. Currently nothing crazy going on. No pylons going to be out in the middle of the map, and no proxy barracks. So shaping up fairly standard.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that both of these guys need to keep in mind throughout the series. It's a best of 9. That's a lot of games potentially to be played, especially all in one sitting in a tournament setting. But for these guys, they got to be thinking, all right, there's a reasonable chance there's going to be some cheese. And Deadwing, even though it is that huge 20-player map, it's one of those situations where you can certainly play the mind games. You can certainly play counter to the traditional wisdom of playing this map and go for that very, very cheesy play. So we'll have to see. You know, I'm not exactly familiar with these guys. Maybe one of them's a bit cheesy. Do you know?
Nope. I'm actually filling in, but you know, it looks pretty standard as of thus far. tnerb is going to go ahead and pause it. I think we're going to have a slight bit of lag here going on. One thing for sure is that this is a really good map that you can hide tech on, especially if you're Protoss. We can get you know, dark shrines hidden across the map, Twilight Council. That's what you typically see coming out of Protoss. And with Terran, you're not going to hide tech unless you're going to do like a proxy starport, which, you know, as much as you'd like to see it, it's going to be slightly more unlikely against Protoss, especially.
Yeah, I can't actually remember the last time I've seen a proxy Stargate game, but sometimes players do get to go for those weird, wonky things. Just because it is a best of 9, you can avoid to drop, or you can afford to drop a couple of games here or there. But Reaper going to be heading out for the scout, and like you were mentioning, he is going to be checking all over the place. I'm assuming he's just checking over here for proxies and shenanigans. Shouldn't actually be necessarily checking the spawn, just because that's not possible.
Yeah, he might have forgotten this. I mean, of course, we haven't seen this map being played in a little bit. The probe is going to come in and scout that the natural's getting thrown down for tnerb here. And that Reaper, like you said, is now going to be making its way up to the top right. So he is going to find the spawn fairly shortly, but it's going to be a little annoying to see this probe just go to work on this SCV. And like you said, I think he was going to go check for proxies or things like that. I don't understand why he would go down there in the first place. Yeah. He is going to bring his Reaper back, which is an interesting decision. I feel like he should have been able to have dealt with the probe with an SCV or two. Instead, he's going to bring now potentially his earlier scout back to just go ahead and snipe the forward probe.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, this shouldn't be too big of a deal just because everything is so standard and so safe thus far. But there's so many situations, so many build orders where pulling back that Reaper for that time would have given the Protoss the extra time that they need to do something devious. But like you said, in this case, it's not going to be too big of a deal. As we do have, you know, again, macro-oriented builds from both of these guys.
Yeah, one thing that I heard from TerranItUp in the lobby was that he's like, you know, I'm not very good at my Protoss these days, my Terran versus Protoss, and my win rate versus Protoss, I mean, this is just me as a player, but it's pretty damn good. I love this matchup because I just feel like I have the most natural read of it. And one thing that I automatically like coming out of Terran is that he's throwing down a factory, an early factory, and of course, as he loses the Reaper from the Stalker. Of course, we want to see Widow Mines coming out of that. He's looking to do some 1-1-1 action as he goes right into the Starport tech. Of course, you need medevacs eventually, but the earlier medevac is going to give him that early game mobility that can really exploit the Protoss's weak early game play.
Yeah, there are certainly some options for aggression with the 1-1-1 like you were referencing, and as he only went for that one Reaper, he's got a bit of the extra gas. Now, thus far, we do have 2 additional gates going to be coming up for tnerb, but he's not adding on 6 or anything like that thus far. He is adding on his additional gases at his natural, so those timings are pretty solid there, but he's got a probe waiting to throw something down. Is it going to be the tech choice, or is it just going to be more production? Because this is the kind of one of the points where you can start ramping up that gateway number for a big attack.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if he did that. He went robo early to get his observers out, and there's the robotics facility. That's what I was waiting on. Or robotics bay, rather, to get the Colossi out. I would imagine tnerb is going to go ahead and take a third around 10 minutes because this is a particularly safe map, especially on a cross-spawn, long distance away from your opponent. And also, there's a lot of channels for the Protoss player to be able to section out his opponent. There's rocks at the base of the natural. There's that ramp at the other side. So, Twilight Council going down, he's not throwing down more gateways. He feels pretty safe to just go ahead and macro up. And right now we do have a scan going down in the main from TerranItUp as he is going to go ahead and get his medevac across. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes with this.
Yeah, he gets pretty much a perfect read on everything that's going on tech-wise from our Protoss player. Of course, you can always hide things maybe over at the natural somewhere. It may be a bit more vulnerable, but you can potentially hide things there. In that case, nothing hidden, everything is scouted. And the other kind of nice thing for TerranItUp, he did get that safety bunker right at the front of his natural, just in case there was anything sneaky, and he does have that third CC on the way.
Yeah, I can kind of tell why TerranItUp is having a little bit of issue with his Protoss matchup, because he's kind of, his game plan right now, he's going up to a third CC, and for whatever reason, the 5 barracks before third CC is just so much stronger, and you see he doesn't have that yet. He's just now adding on a third barracks, and typically the timings, and this is getting spotted right now by tnerb. There's observers all over the map. He's got really good vision, and all this is getting spotted. The load up of 8 Marines, this isn't going to be able to do. This is, we call it harass. He's going to be able to limit, but you really want to take away from both Zerg and Protoss's production ability in economics in the first probably 10 minutes of the game, and really he has done absolutely nothing to do that.
Yep. And like you were mentioning, good observer placement right now. If TerranItUp continues with his current medevac path, it's going to fly over a second observer. So he's going to have that even closer notice of hey, you better get ready because this attack is coming. Now, of course, even if this attack doesn't do tremendous amounts of damage, there is going to be the triple orbital very soon finishing up, as the CC just momentarily finished up. So he does have that economic potential, but these stalkers are in position to deflect this.
One thing I don't like about tnerb's observer placement is he has them on a patrol rally as the Marines are going to come out, empty out here onto this pylon and snipe it. And what that means is, if you're going against guys who are really good at observer sniping, that just gives them extra ability to see what's going on. Medevac getting a little bit out of position here. Don't get sniped. That's a pretty big pickup. Ooh. But like I said, an observer that is just chilling is pretty hard to see. An observer that is moving and on patrol, you can snipe that. And especially tnerb has invested heavily into early observers to really understand what's happening. Oh, he's going to lose the medevac. Oh, really good job bringing it back there. I just don't like. Wow. I just don't like the fact that he's got his observers on patrol, but not a big deal right now. And of course, he sees everything that's going on. So maybe I should just eat my words.
Yeah, I mean, it does certainly have that. You do certainly have a point at a maybe higher level, but I don't know exactly how much observer sniping we'll be seeing. Third base for a Protoss player is about 3/4 of the way complete, so neither one of these guys really feeling the aggression this game, but we do have, of course, the probe sneaking out. He's going to be probably dropping down that proxy pylon over on the left side of the map. And wow, that it's just so many observers out on the map. I mean, well, I guess it's only 3. It seems like it's actually a lot more. But like you mentioned, he's going to have pretty good eyes.
Yeah, he's got a really good vision across the whole map. He's got forward pylons getting, warped in where he needs to. Currently, TerranItUp's got a supply lead, but he's been supply blocked. He's been on 113 for some time now, just as 2 supply depots finished up. And you could tell how long he had been supply blocked because where he went from 113 supply to 132 supply, and that's all production, of course. It counts the production as this probe is going to get wood of mine. So that's a lot of production there, but now just getting out of that supply block, imagine had TerranItUp not been supply blocked, how much more ahead he would have been.
Ooh, in the natural of tnerb, we do have a bit of a drop. Stalker's going to be slow to respond, but this is just that one medevac with 8 Marines. Photon overcharge does pop off, and this will be dealt with quite nicely by tnerb.
Yeah, I don't really know about this at this point in time. If you're going to be doing drops, there's another one going down. You have to do both at the same time, and both of them get cleaned up really well. And you lose 2 medevacs and 2 things full of Marines for, denying some mining time here and that. I mean, at this point in time, you need to invest more. Like, if you're going to do it, dedicate yourself to drops. Get 3 or 4 drop ships going in the main, bring in that Protoss army left and right, because if not, you're not going to be doing enough damage. But this is 2 big armies making their way across the map. Stalkers in the middle, sniping off on these Vikings a little bit. 3 Widow Mines as well. But where are the medevacs? They lost pretty much all the medevacs. It's going to be a very difficult hold for the Terran player once the initial engagement's over. Colossus getting a couple shots on these Widow Mines. Down they go. Mothership Core's gone. And there's a lot of Vikings with this army, Cybert.
Yeah, there's a lot of Vikings, and there's only the 3 Colossi, so that may end up being, maybe he could have swapped out a couple of those Viking rounds for medevac rounds and had a much stronger army. The other thing that we do need to keep an eye on is wherever the High Templar are warping in on, because currently Psystorm has just begun, which means the longer this game goes on, it might be getting just harder and harder for our Terran player to stay alive against Storms.
Yeah, Storms, of course, it's the difference between a Baneling and a Widowmine shot and a Storm. Storms happen instantaneously, so you can't. There's no real splitting around it. You kind of have to wait until after the Storm goes down and then do something about it. Keep your army alive. At least with Banelings and Widowmines, you can not go near Widowmines, and then Banelings, of course, you can split for days. This army is pretty big, though, from TerranItUp, but no medevac support. He still only has Vikings. This is kind of a one and done. He stems. Now he's going in on the Colossi. One Colossi goes down pretty easily. It's a pretty good concave here from the Terran player, and actually, I don't think tnerb has enough to deal with this right now.
Yeah, he's got a severe lack of real AoE. I mean, just the 3 Colossi, which again did get sniped down pretty easily. Psystorm is nowhere near being done for this attack, and there was only like 1 Archon as well. So now the entire army is just being set upon by this Terran force. The scan just reveal anything else in this. Oh, that line of High Templar, it is so close to Storm being done.
Yeah, the Storms are going to be ready just about in time, but that Colossus is getting sniped out of it as well. Now we got medevac support with this army, and that Nexus is going to be gone. And we're the High Templar. There's a scan going down to the natural. He knows what he's up against, and I think TerranItUp has done enough to get the victory here. Basically, 100 supply over his Protoss opponent, and that was just like pretty good timing to hit before his opponent did. This is really well done from TerranItUp. Let's see if he walks up and eats like 6 Storms to the face, though, because that's pretty much what's about to happen.
Probably.
As soon as he works on this gateway.
Yeah, Widowmines aren't up near the front where they can take out the Zealots in big hits, but there's the Storms blanketing much of the army, eating through so many of those units. And like you mentioned, the lack of medevacs and the use of stim is really hurting this army coming into these AoE engagements.
Yeah, unfortunately, the High Templar are all out of energy now. They didn't use their Storms when they were supposed to. I don't know if he just didn't know that this whole unit, this army is back here. tnerb gonna lose game 1, and TerranItUp pretty happy about that, I'm pretty sure. One more Colossus coming out to make the fight, but this is a best of 9 series, and tnerb is making him stay here. He's saying, it's not going to be that easy. You're not going to take it lying down. But game 1 going to TerranItUp on Deadwing pretty comfortably, I might add. Ladies and gents, welcome back. Game 2 of this best of 9 finals series between these 2 players. Of course, it's a TVP. We'll get right into these player introductions for you. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Overgrowth, rocking those teal trunks. It is representing Ashfire Gaming, TerranItUp.
And in the northern spawn position, our red Protoss currently down 0-1 in this best of 9. This is tnerb.
Yeah, losing that first game, I want to say pretty comfortably, it was in the win column for TerranItUp. And what's pretty interesting is this probe making his way around the map is checking for any sort of proxy location, but it's, of course, going down in TerranItUp space, so he's not going to be able to find it, unfortunately for you, tnerb.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he is indeed respecting his opponent at least a little bit. He could have booked it across the map. He could have kept that probe back home for extra mining. Instead, he did decide to check for those proxies. He's like, all right, I know that this is a legitimate possibility. Lots of players, after they're up 1-0 in a long series like this, try to go for the quick 2-0 to upset their opponent even further and go for that really hardcore cheese. I would have loved to see it. I think it would have been a great idea, but alas, we shall not have it.
Yeah, nope. Instead, we've got a Reaper on the way, of course, orbital command, and tnerb's probe is going to get drilled a little bit by this SCV here, and if he lets it sit for too long, it will actually lose its life, and there he's going to go ahead and pull it off at a pretty good time, but the Reaper's going to go ahead and get the kill anyway. And that Reaper needs to do a better job of scouting this time around. In last game, I feel like it was used a little too cheaply. This time it is going to see a natural once it makes its way in there, and I feel pretty comfortable about this because TerranItUp seems to be as macro-oriented as his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, the same one Reaper can do a lot of damage. We didn't see it do really anything last game, but versus this opener, maybe he'll find a weak spot. And that's the sort of thing that you don't expect to see at the higher level, but you can sometimes see it down here. Oh, almost goes for the second probe. May end up losing the Reaper anyways. No, it does barely manage to skate away. And like you were talking about, again, both of these guys playing for more of that macro style. We've got the factory on the way once again. No extra Reapers or anything silly like that. It instead is just going to probably be into another variant of the 1-1-1, which there's so many variants of 1-1-1 that players can go into.
Oh yeah, and you know, I want to see Widow Mines. We didn't see Widow Mines as much as I would have. We saw him used defensively, as this Reaper is actually going to get a second kill, another probe, and the Mothership Core's kind of like not really noticing what's going on right now. She's like,
wow, yeah.
I don't know, I'm just kind of chilling, and then I guess Reapers are killing my probes, whatever. He is going to survive again. So Reaper getting a good scout and also getting 2 kills as the factory finishes up, as well as the command center for TerranItUp. I want to see, like I was just referring to, I want to see Widow Mines make their way into the play. It seems to be the particularly dirty unit you can use in this matchup. It's so strong. And I might have a lot of Protoss haters for advocating the use of early game Widow Mines, but I mean, you all got DTs and Storm and stuff like that, so Terran are allowed to have our... if you didn't know, of course, I'm a Terran player, but we see a starport going down, so, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes for this. Last time, as this Reaper is getting worked on a little bit by the Tickle Cannon of the Century, last game, TerranItUp just put his starport onto the reactor and started double-producing Medivacs, and then started double-producing Vikings as soon as he saw the Colossi tech.
Yeah, very true, but the other kind of thing that we do need to note about Widow Mines is, yeah, they're a great splash option. Yeah, you can get some fantastic shots, but we've all seen those games where they kill more of the Terran unit than anything else. So, I don't know exactly if tnerb is going to be busting out some classic moves. I believe it was Classic who like hallucinated a Phoenix and flew it directly into his opponent's Medivacs for just some sick Widow Mine friendly fire. It was so incredible, but you know, again, I doubt that we're going to be seeing that, but those type of plays are possible, even if it is on accident. But, again...
especially if it's on accident.
Yeah, exactly. That's always a factor with the Widow Mine. But we've got more and more observers coming out, very similar to last game. He's going to be getting that map presence and awareness. Yeah, and see, TerranItUp is using these mines as like a defensive option, which is never a bad thing. You know, mines are a very good unit to use defensively, especially against non-blink stalkers. This Reaper's going to try and make its way in here. Again, denied by the Sentry and the Stalker. He's just going to try and find the tech. I mean, were he to get in there, he'd probably be like, oh, this is a lot like last game. I should just kind of do my thing. Stim and +1 attacker on the way for our Terran player, so very standard from him and very standard, of course, for the Protoss player as well. We do see another Marine pickup. No Widow Mine involved in the pickup. And I mean, I don't want to keep harping on it, but it would be a much stronger drop if you added the Widow Mine. We see a Robotics Bay go down as well as the Twilight Council. So pretty much picture perfect from last game. And even like the placement of the buildings is remarkably similar. So he's apparently drilled this pretty hard. Now the other nice thing for tnerb is he does have those 3 stalkers lying in wait. If there were some marauders in this, then maybe that would be a bit more troublesome, because we've all seen those games where someone like sends stalkers over to deal with a drop and then they just get dropped by marauders and everything of the Protoss dies.
Ooh, I really like the Reaper picking off the expansion pylon, or expansion probe here. It is going to get shot a little bit up. It's going to make its way away with its life. So currently, at minute 9:35, TerranItUp he hasn't lost a single unit. And that Reaper's got 3 kills on it. It's currently 3 probe kills to 0 by way of our Terran player. But, you know, pretty nice just to deny that expansion. I mean, he's going to deny it a little bit longer. He could even get in there and get a 4th kill if he wanted to. 3rd is on the way, as well as +1 attack. More drops going down.
Yeah, more drops, and with that 3rd location, it does seem to be indicative of the more aggressive 3rd. The one that if you take it, you're probably going to be moving into a, rally all of your units past that 3rd to defend it. Now, this Colossus just stepped out, which means these Marines need to be careful with the Stalkers here playing defense. Wow, that Medivac is so low on HP. TerranItUp has some magic about him that allows him to escape with these units with barely any life.
Yeah, and he was 7 HP there. It's a pretty lucky medevac. He's got really good control over his medevacs. This one, unfortunately, is a little bit out of touch right now. Going to go ahead and boost into the natural. Now that he's used that boost, now the Widow Mines go down. Probes haven't been pulled, and this is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I didn't see it getting that much. How many kills did that Widow Mine get?
7.
6 kills. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about in reference to the use of these Widow Mines. And that the medevac is going to go ahead and get its self back home, and currently a pretty decent supply lead right now for our Terran player. 2 phone shot overcharges have gone down. That really low HP medevac is right in between one of them. So now these Marines are going to get in here to see what they can see, and not a lot. That medevac's going to die instantly.
Yeah, the focus fire actually going to be going down on the Marines. These Stalkers will be picked off at least one. No, 2 of them do go down, and this last Marine will eventually fall. And that Widow Mine... Oh, he's still just got the 6 kills. Oh, he gets 3 more probes just as he's about to die.
See?
Nice.
What did I say about these Widow Mines, man? It's not, and what it does is it's not just the investment of getting the minerals or the probes, right? What you've done is now you've caused tnerb to build photon cannons, pull probes from that mineral line, and you see basically a 23 supply lead, right, from our Terran player. And I'm not saying that's all due to the Widow Mine, but the Widow Mine certainly has played a part.
And now that Reaper getting a 5th kill. Now, fortunately for tnerb, this is just ridiculous. These single
Oh no!
Never mind. I was gonna talk about tnerb's control or TerranItup's control, and then unfortunately Blink is a little bit hard to beat. Templar Archives now on the docket. But yeah, that third almost denied another time, and that Reaper, those Widow Mines, just absolute heroes for TerranItUp.
Yeah, and he hasn't lost a lot. I mean, he lost a medevac and a dropship full of Marines, but aside from that, tnerb is pretty behind right now as these Stalkers are making their custom map. Once again, TerranItUp does not have a lot of medevacs with his army. These Stalkers are going to find a pretty, a happily unguarded third right now, and there's about 9 of them in the mix. And they're going to be pretty excited to go in here and snipe as many SCVs as they can before the rest of the army shows up. And he's stimmed already, right? He is stimmed, and there's no medevacs with this army, so it's going to be quite some time before they get back to full power. And in the meantime of this going down, there was a drop in the third of tnerb, and now it's going down to the natural. So, at the same time, defending, he's going to be, with some aggression here as it finally is cleaned up by the Protoss player just off screen, unfortunately. And Storm just starting up, so,
Yes. Yeah, once again, the Storm going to be added on. Now, the other thing that we do need to note is TerranItup's, incredible supply block that's been happening. He's started so many units, so many other things. Just now, the supply depots are starting. I'm actually surprised he hasn't dropped down some sort of supply drop. But Stalkers getting picked off, a couple of them do go down there, and once again, this supply block has been pretty severe.
Man, and it's right at the same time that he got supply block the last game. This seems to be an unfortunate trend for our Terran player here. And imagine, right? So now he gets his supply depots up, instantly leaps up to 145. This seems to be one of those things that's just, he knows that he makes this mistake. He should have post-it notes all over his computer that are just like, don't get supply blocked at 113. Just don't let it happen. It's not good. And unfortunately, it's the second game in a row that it's happened. Imagine had he not been supply blocked, how much further ahead he would be. And dude, I don't know what to tell you. This is the exact same game that we saw last game.
Now, the difference is Storm just finished up. Yeah, we were on the same page about this, but this is a super Marine heavy army. They've already stimmed once, as you mentioned, and still no real medevac numbers. There's 2 flying across the map. We've got 3 more on the production tab, but still, this is just so few medevacs for a potentially Storm heavy engagement.
Yeah, no High Templar as of yet on the field, so until that goes down, unfortunately for our Protoss player, this seems to be a pretty dominating force. But if all of these units are caught out here as the Colossi started going to work, a good concave from the Terran player, decent stim, but he has to stim twice, no more healing. There's 4 Colossi left over, 1 is sniped, but the Stalkers are going to work on the Vikings as well. Now 1 Colossi getting low on health, but this looks like tnerb is going to be able to at least handle it for now. Colossi now have no more units in front of them, but the Stalkers are able to clean up what little remains of the Marauders, and it looks like tnerb is held.
Yep, that last Widow Mine going to be getting a pretty nice shot off, but again, Vikings not actually were all attacking those Colossi. I believe 3 or 4 of them got pulled back when he tried to split his bio back. And even though there weren't any storms, there weren't really medevacs also there to really provide that healing power. Now, there's a far more significant number of medevacs actually with the army. And he's cranking out medevacs, he's cranking out medevacs, and he still has not a healthy number of Vikings, but a reasonable number of Vikings. And he did clean up a couple of those Colossi, but overall, much better engagement for tnerb.
Yeah, so, I mean, unfortunately, the production and the economy of TerranItUp has been on point, as opposed to his Protoss opponent. And another army coming across here, and this one looks a little bit more domineering. We'll see how much High Templar can get done in this, but, I mean, this kind of lends itself to the double starport, you know, Colossus. Oh, man, both those Colossus are out of position. This is it. That's the game. Unless this is like, oh, it's a bad storm, too. I was going to say, unless this is an incredibly money storm, which it's not, you don't have any more AoE. There's 2 more High Templar with full energy in there. But TerranItUp has demonstrated that he has pretty decent army control in these matchups. So, unfortunately, as these probes get caught out, it is looking really rough for tnerb. Oh my god, the Widow Mine.
Oh, what a shot. 19 probes have gone down. There's the storms that we're looking for, eating quite a bit of that damage, and these Zealots do have charge, which means they will be able to get on top of these units fairly quickly. But again, there's just so much more army from TerranItUp. 30 supply army advantage for him, and now he's going to be pushing in towards the 30. He's going to be able to snipe this Nexus if he goes for it, and then the probes are the next target after that.
Yeah, the Terran army here with a lot of health, you know, hasn't even needed to stem in order to take out this third. He should know that there's a fourth available for his taking as well. The probes are going there now. They need to be going somewhere. The Widow Mines are able to clean up the charge lots, and that's what they do. You know, there's an observer with the army. They're eventually going to be able to get them cleaned up as he sends forward a group of Marines. That's the whole point of their existence, was to get stormed there, was to eat the storm. Widow Mine, a little bit of friendly fire, but the Mothership Core, a lot of feedbacks going down on these medevacs. Now it's gone. tnerb calling GG, and the second game going to Ashfire is tearing it up.
Welcome back to this finals best of 9, spawning in the northern position, currently down 0-2. We have the red Protoss, tnerb.
And his opponent, representing Ashfire Gaming, currently up 2-0 against his Protoss opponent. Representing the mighty Terran race, rocking those teal trunks, it is TerranItUp.
I'm very proud of us thus far for avoiding all of the TerranItUp puns, because we could be like, man, he's really tearing this series up.
Oh, man. The pun, if you want puns, look no further than Tyrannus. I've got you covered on the puns, my friend. I think Tempo and I were watching, it was Hydra versus Parting. Mm-hmm. And we were doing, Tempo and I were doing stuff like, and the units are parting perfectly to concave, and like, oh man, all sorts of really stupid shit that should never be said in a StarCraft match. So we apologize for that. It was a dark time in our StarCraft casting careers.
Once again, tnerb, he's respecting his opponent a good bit, and he's like, all right, I'm going to check over by my potential third base location. I'm going to give the map a little bit of a scout, look around in your natural as well, but tearing it up again. He's even cutting the Reaper this time. Maybe that means a bit of a faster factory. In this case, I guess it means a bit of a faster expansion.
Yeah, it's interesting to note he has gone gasless this far, so he's going to go right into Command Center on this map. This is the first deviation from a build that we've seen out of either of these two players, because tnerb is doing the exact same thing, taking his expansion at the same time that he did in the previous 2 games, only taking 1 gas. And, it's interesting because if you're tnerb, you pretty much say, he's probably going to go for the same thing if he went for the same thing there. And now these Marines that he's just made are going to make their way around the map, check for any sort of proxies. But unfortunately, he's kind of committing a little bit of a cardinal sin here, and he's not scouting as thoroughly as he could. I mean, he's getting a good scout there, but on the other guy, it needs to be going more bottom right into that crevice. Protoss hide stuff behind. If you go ahead and check right a little bit towards that third saber, right there, those trees. They hide shit behind those trees all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really annoying. And if you're going to scout, if your unit's there already, go ahead and send it there in that bottom right. It doesn't really hurt much, and helps a whole lot if you manage to catch that forward pylon.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like he got 90% of the way there, The Tastelope, always something to look at on this map. But he got 90% of the way there, and then he's like, oh no, I'm going to peace out, turn around. There's the scan, and once again, one of the kind of differences that sometimes we really see be a difference between either A, high-level players, and B, lower-level players, or Koreans and foreigners. Koreans, most of the time, they drop the mule, they don't scan, and it's like, no, I'm gonna get the eco. I'm gonna build a random bunker at the front just for the safety, and then I'll salvage it if I don't need it. But I want that mule.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things where, you know, if you have the ability and the units to be able to see what's going on and know what's going on, that's what you're gonna use. But the scan is such an easy option, and it comes down to opportunity cost, right? That 400 minerals over the amount of time that a mule is going to provide for you versus the information. And to me, information in StarCraft is money. It is, the cost outweighs the benefits outweigh the cost sometimes. And of course, he saw the Twilight Council. He didn't see that it was getting researched just yet, but essentially there's only one of two things that come up with this. Blink Stalkers, as the scans of natural as well. I don't know if I agree with that. But Blink Stalkers or a Dark Shrine going down somewhere, right? And I think it's pretty safe to say that either way, TerranItUp is going to have this covered. He's got Widow Mines. He doesn't have an Engineering Bay just yet, does he? So we check his main. He does. Okay, yeah. So if he throws down the turrets, if he thinks that Dark Shrine DTs are going to be on their way, but Widow Mines do a fairly good job against Stalkers, even Blink ones. It phases them out and forces them to use their Blink once fired. So, if we're going to see a heavy Blink Stalker push, I think TerranItUp is going to be perfectly capable to fend it off, unless he gets supply blocked again. Okay, he's good. He's back.
I mean, so far, but we haven't hit like that 113, 129 supply point where he is going to just get that incredible
It's going to happen. It's going to happen again, Cyber.
We can feel it. But one thing that I would kind of like to see from both of these guys is a pylon and a supply depot, respectively, at those back rocks. I know they're not playing against Zerg. It's not like roaches or lings are going to be working at those back rocks in secret. But still, that is such an opportunity.
Interesting.
All right, fine.
Interesting you say that, Cyber.
It's just, it's one of those little moves that we always like to see. Just keep an eye on the rocks. But the other thing that we do need to note, you actually kind of referenced it a little bit. Dirty Dark Shrine, win behind.
DT.
Yep. And Warp Prism as well, so he's not even going to be doing just like based on pylons. He's going to be doing the dirtiest with the Warp Prism.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how TerranItUp holds it, right? So now we know
the scan.
The scan is perfect.
Yes.
What else do you need? Come on.
Very nice.
Perfect scan. But that's, like you said, 3 mules expended to really know what his opponent is doing, because this is a very difficult map for Reapers, and that's why I think he went for Marines first instead of Reapers, because there's not a lot of surface area for you to be able to get your Reapers up into the main, and so he relied on scans. We do have Stalkers making their way across the map with an Observer. They're going to be met by a very angry group of Widow Mines and bunkered Marines with the turret. Unfortunately, no turret at the back part of the main. He is moving a Widow Mine back just now, so this is some Star Sense going. No, he's loading it up. He's loading up.
Oh, interesting. He will actually see all of these units of the Stalkers getting some nice shots off on this medevac, which means actually they do have Blink. If they would have been a little bit faster on the uptake, they could have gotten that. Now, on the left side, there's that one Dark Templar inside that Warp Prism. Nice shot from the Widow Mine, but again, those missile turret placements, pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we do at the main. The Mothership Core is going to get sniped. Wow. That's a huge pickup by this Marines. That's a massive pickup. But in the main, we've got this turret in the, to be able to detect. Yeah. So hopefully for TerranItUp, he's not going to be able to do much damage to these DTs. Well held, sir.
Again, it wasn't a perfect hold by any means, but the execution was so much better from TerranItUp. tnerb, he decided to kill a supply depot that was on the edge, the fringe of TerranItUp's base, giving TerranItUp so much more time to deal with the Mothership Core in the middle of the map, to deal with the pressure from the Stalkers at the front. And it just kind of was that extra couple of moments that he needed to fully defend almost everywhere, almost perfectly.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with you on that. That was pretty much picture-perfect hold. That was the best we could have imagined, I think, in my opinion, right? Yeah, sorry, I nitpicking at this point in time, but in my opinion, that was pretty much as well as you could have asked for. DTs for Blink Stalkers, that's scary, and that's game-ending stuff sometimes. Even though it was just 2 DTs, that could have gotten in his eco and gone horribly wrong. But just like what we were talking about, supply just got out of, TerranItUp just got out of a massive supply dump or block here, and imagine heading up, and this medevac is gonna get sniped out of the sky. Only 3 Marines are gonna make their way out of it, stemmed up, and then the Colossi is gonna clean him up very shortly indeed.
Yep, the Widow Mine was almost going to be dropping on out of that medevac, and again, harkening back to the previous game, imagine how different that drop could have been with that one Widow Mine. Now, Dark Templar on the right side will actually get a very nice spot of that medevac for tnerb, so he should know that that's coming up if he did check over there. But for now, the Dark Templar staying alive, might go over to those rocks and get a little bit of damage done on them. Maybe even will end up seeing that 3rd CC.
I'm almost like happy that DT would start going to work on those rocks. He's not going to, but at least for the time being is. One thing I would notice that TerranItUp has done differently is he's gone for 2 reactored starports as this medevac fully loaded makes its way into the main of his opponent. And what that does is that allows him to build either 4 Vikings at a time, which is going to deal with this Colossi quite nicely, or medevacs at the same time as Vikings, which is what he's really been lacking in the matchup, which is to say a healing force to keep those units alive for the long term. He's really just been able to win the engagement and then just go from there. Any sort of lasting fights are going to slowly start to turn away from his favor. The drop going down, Marauders and Marines with the medevac support, they're going to go ahead and stem and try and stop the Dark Shrine. I don't know how much of a pickup that's going to be because the DC play has kind of been stifled at this point in time. Stalker's going to blink a little bit out of position. The Dark Shrine is going to end up getting picked off, and then a fully loaded medevac going to go down. Now the photon overcharge, so a little late there. Unfortunately, we're making some mistakes, but no more medevacs coming in to my main, at least for the next 60 seconds.
Yeah. We do also have a 4th CC being added on, so TerranItUp, he's looking to, again, continue on that macro front. Just happy to sit around for the next couple of minutes, continue to build up those units. We do have another Warp Prism going to be coming in, and we have seen not an explosion of gateways, but the addition of several... Wow, that Warp Prism got absolutely shreked there. It was just... it was hanging around for a couple of moments too long.
Hey, what's up, guys? Oh.
Yeah, completely dead. But as that 4th CC is going to start to be... Oh, this Dark Templar is actually going to get some work done. Good for him. He's doing something. 1 kill. He's been around for a long time with only 1 kill.
There we go. 3 kills. Okay.
All right.
One thing that I want to see TerranItUp pull right now is the boys. I want to see him pull a bunch of SCVs and then go ahead and go to work. This DT is not going to make its way into the natural, but again, engagement going down here. Stalkers in front of the Colossi. Pretty good splits coming from our Terran player, making sure that all of those Stalkers or Colossi are not going to kill his entire bio army in the go. Stalker's a little bit out of position here with the offensive blink. Charge Lot's getting in on top of this bio, but with the stem forward and back with the healing medevacs, they're able to kind of use their flexibility to get in and out. Colossi able to take out a lot of Marines in one fell swoop, and this is actually going really heavily in the favor of our red Protoss player.
Yeah, we do still technically have that supply advantage, but it's just being spread out all over the place, and engagement's really sloppy there from TerranItUp, just not really able to engage with his full force all at the proper time. The crevice, that kind of hole in the ground, did cause some problems just because the automatic pathing of those units. Reinforcements actually getting caught a little bit there by our Protoss, but this next engagement, this is the opportunity for TerranItUp to potentially crush this, as we do have Templar Archives back on the way, as well as that Dark Shrine.
Yeah, and there's nothing here to get this Protoss army home if it's caught out and completely destroyed. The Mothership Core can't recall right now, and the scans go down. They're making note of the army positioning. Middle Mines are going to be burrowing. Vikings going to be taken away from the army to go to focus on the Colossi. Pretty good concave spread out. Widow Mines getting their detonations off on these charge lots. No more Stalkers, no more charge lots, no more Colossi. And TerranItUp has really taken this engagement as well as he could have imagined. The Stalkers are actually still alive. I didn't notice their blink forward underneath the Vikings, but that's an engagement that goes heavily in favor of our Terran player. No concussive shells, so these Stalkers are able to get away with their lives at least, but that much investment for a Protoss player is not easily rectified.
Yep, he lost a lot of those units that take a long time to reproduce, namely the Colossi. And even one more will be caught a little bit out of position. He will actually get the opportunity to finish it off. Very nice there from TerranItUp. Yeah, he trades away some of those bio units, some of the Marines and the Marauders, but he has got more of those to spare than our Protoss does of the Colossi. And upgrades have technically been favoring our Protoss player, but that hasn't made a big enough difference in these engagements. Another couple of Stalkers being caught out of position. Just unfortunate. Those little mistakes adding up to big differences.
Yeah, Woodamine's going to burrow right in between all three of the bases, so any reinforcements coming that way are going to get caught out. The forward, this army is making its way into the third here, and this is what I was talking about. They're going to make their way across. I think they are going to have no observer in tow, so they're going to go over this Woodamine army, and they're going to get absolutely decimated. These charge lots are going to be totally taken out of the equation because Woodamines were placed really well. That's fantastic. No more charge lots, no more meat for your meat grinder, and that's a pretty big meat grinder over there. TerranItUp's got a pretty healthy dosage of bio, and no storm as of yet. Still halfway done.
Yeah, extremely late to the party in that sense. Now, there are 0 Templar out on the field. They've already been turned into 3 Archons, so potentially we'll have to see more Templar being warped in. Actually, I'm completely wrong. There's 3 Templar right there.
I think they just got warped in, though, so...
Oh, I guess I must have missed them, but here's the engagement as the stem up the ramp. This is a nice choke point for the Protoss player, but is it going to be enough? This is a lot of Terran bio, a lot of Terran force coming here with the stem of force.
Wow, pretty good nick. I think he picked up a Marauder that was just about to die. We've got a bit of a lag situation, but now it's getting solved, and this is the beginning of the end. This is, what's that one, the Door song, or the Who, or whatever. This is the end.
I'm not actually 100% sure. Storms! This is way too late once again.
It doesn't matter at this point. tnerb had to pull probes, lost a lot of them in the process, and unfortunately losing a 4th as well. TerranItUp's production at home has been a little bit shredded by a DT, so you know what? Actually, maybe he has a chance because we've only got 2 mining bases, really 1 mining base for the Terran player, so the production is not going to be as good as it could possibly be. Scan goes down, it's going to clean up that DT, but I didn't notice how many kills he had to his name, but surely a lot.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
The other kind of nice thing for TerranItUp is because he was so far ahead in army supply, begin with, even though he lost that economy, he does have the mules to supplement. He does have those wonderful Terran options, and he can continue to power ahead with his macro. I mean, we're talking about 70 supply difference in the army alone, 90 supply difference overall. And this Protoss army, they're going to need some wonderful, wonderful storms that we have not yet seen from tnerb.
Yeah, unfortunately his storm control's been a little lax, and there's so many medevacs here. He has almost a medevac for every 3 minutes. He can just eat these storms. Look at the healing power of the medevacs. Like, I mean, he's gonna lose most of his army, but it doesn't really matter for the most part because he's got more coming across the map, and the medevacs are doing what the medevacs do. GG called in game 3, going way of our Teal Terran, and it's currently at 3-0. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to what I consider probably the best map ever created in StarCraft 2 history. And it's going to be Game 4 of this best-of-9 for us for the championship. Ascended StarCraft League Defender League Season 4 for you. Of course, it's a Protoss versus Terran, no race changes. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Secret Spring, representing nobody but his fan self, is the red Protoss player, tnerb.
Going for that delightfully standard play. But on the other side of the map, our Cyan Terran player, he knows how to change up the colors. He knows how to take games off of this Protoss. Can he close it out with a clean sweep? Representing Ashfire Gaming, this is TerranItUp.
Probe getting a kill.
Oh.
First blood probe over there, you sneaky little devil.
I think that is the most damage tnerb has done in the early game.
How is tnerb this far ahead in supply? He's at 20, maybe it was 22 supply to 17. It seemed like he was at 24 supply, and then, I don't know, he just, weird. Something lagged there. Now he's at 24 supply. TerranItUp.
So,
oh, he canceled production, that's what he did. Okay.
Oh, yeah, probably Zealot.
Yeah, Zealot and Probe, I think.
Yeah. And he was like, hey, I'm going to take my Nexus. Now, we do have that probe sticking around in the natural expansion of TerranItUp. Probably not going to be doing anything devious because this is tnerb, and he likes to play 13 Gate, 18 Cybercore, 21 Nexus, or something like that, and that's he's sticking to it.
Yeah, it's pretty standard play, and I think once you've gotten to a tournament finals, if you have never played any other way, you kind of have to stick with what you know,
That's
unfortunately, true. For our Protoss player. And I say unfortunately because it really seems like if he changed it up, he might have some success. And this is why I advocate, like, 1 out of every 10 games, just cheese. Just cheese for the hell of it, because if you want to play in tournaments, which is, might I say, one of the funnest things you can do in StarCraft 2, playing online tournaments, you're gonna like having that cheese under your belt when you need it. The Reaper's gonna go ahead and get killed by the Stalker and Mothership Core combo, and a Stargate is on the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe actually see some Oracle action out of our Protoss player here, but it's going to be slightly later, and I think we're going to have enough Marines out on the map for TerranItUp to handle it pretty easily.
Yeah, despite the fact that TerranItUp technically did not scout it, he's continuing to get that engineering bay, which he has gotten a relatively early engineering bay every single game. He doesn't delay them by any extraordinary means, nothing like that. So even though he didn't scout this, and even though this could be an Oracle, he should have time. Oh, number 1 missile turret going up right there. Most Terran players do like to get that triple missile turret set up, at least if they're on 2 bases. And that's probably what he's going to be doing. And we haven't actually seen anything come out of that Stargate just yet. I'm assuming it's going to be Oracle, but...
Yeah, I mean, it could be used for Phoenixes.
There we go.
Right? Okay, there's the Oracle coming out. I mean, he could use it to continue to make Phoenixes after and go into a Phoenix Colossi play, and the Phoenixes focus down, of course, Vikings and Medivacs fairly well, especially with the Vikings targeting Colossi. And it's not just that the Phoenixes take out the Vikings, it's that the Vikings would need to shoot down the Phoenixes first unless you control shift-click onto the various Colossi. And so that amount of time in an engagement could spell just enough time for your Colossi to stay alive, and it could spell the difference in these engagements that we've seen. And we haven't really seen small engagements aside from drops go down from either of these 2 players. It's really just been massive, like, mid-game to late-game pushes out of these 2 players with as much as what they want in their composition as they could possibly manage.
Yeah, very true. There is not a lot of early game aggression. These are not the like high-end like MC or sometimes even Leanock heavy cheeses. But this Oracle is going to be flying in potentially in kind of the worst spot because he's going to directly the 1 missile turret. There's all sorts of other angles that he could have gone for. In this case, he's almost flying directly into that missile turret, just out of range until right now. Picks himself up
he's gonna lose it.
SCV so kills. Wow, yeah. Extremely close to losing that. 16 health manages to skirt away, but now that's the element of surprise completely gone.
Yeah, we do have a medevac picking up full with the Widowmine involved here. Phoenix is on the way, as well as extended thermal lance. So all the basic necessities, the necessity and the building blocks of this Protoss army that we want. And it is going to be Phoenix Colossi, and I like that choice. It's going to change things up quite drastically by way of how you manage the matchup, as opposed to having Stalkers focusing down Vikings. Now you've got Phoenixes in the mix. They're also pretty decent at taking out drops. And one thing tnerb has done is he's cut Observer production, and he's gone right into Colossi production, so that could be a little rough for him because this Phoenix is on patrol and it is going to catch out this medevac, but it's not going to be enough time for it to shoot it down before the medevac is going to drop its payload. And its payload involves a very, very nice little Widowmine right there. Photon Overcharge is going to go off and be able to clean this up for what it's worth. And actually the Widowmine firing off on only 1 probe, so not getting done when it needs to get done. And he's going to lose the medevac here to this Phoenix.
Wow. So that was definitely the best showing that we've seen out of tnerb, and changing things up, it seems, is the solution. He brings the Observer over. Goodbye, Widowmine. He doesn't have to worry about that, and there, the majority of the probes are being sent back to work quite nicely. Now, on the Terran side of things, we've got that 3rd CC just beginning as he's adding on his upgrades, and they'll be finishing up relatively soon. But as you mentioned, the Colossi production is happening so much faster for our Protoss player, but also that extended thermal lance is done so much faster than it was in the previous games.
Yeah, I don't like what tnerb is doing here. He's kind of moving out with enough meat, in front of his Colossi. If he loses his early game Colossi, it could spell a little bit of doom. We don't have another one in production. He's trying to take his 3rd. A scan is going to go down from TerranItUp in the main to see if he can drop this in the main. There are 2 Colossi out on the map. A 3rd Colossi making its way out. This might be just some typical 2-base Colossi Phoenix play. I don't know. Now we have the probe moving out to take the 3rd. But TerranItUp needs to get something done with this drop. At this point in time, this drop isn't about harassment. It's about actually causing some economic damage. And he sees the Phoenixes. Did he see the Phoenixes? Okay, he's skirting around them just in time. And now I think he's just going to be you know, a lot more wary about what he's doing. This Oracle making its way, just out of sight of the range of the Widow Mine, and it's able to start working away. Okay, now he needs to be careful. Okay, he sees it. Wow, that's some next level vision from our red Protoss player here. So well done, the Oracle. You know, we forgot about him for a little bit.
Yeah. Fortunately, tnerb did not. Will pick up a third SCV before going down. And that's the story of that one little Oracle. Got himself a couple of kills, did a little bit for his commander, but in this case, we still have that medevac waiting around in the south, just waiting to move in, and he will actually scan quite nicely on that third. He's going to be like, okay, I can't quite engage with all of those units, but the army of the Protoss is moving away. This may be an opportunity for our Terran medevac to move in and get a little bit of damage done.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what TerranItUp decides to do from here on out, noting the timing of the third Nexus being taken from his opponent here. More scans going down. He really likes to have the scans give him the information of the army, and, you know, it's not a bad idea to really know what's going down. He scans. He's going to pick off a couple of these probes, rallying over, pick up, and go ahead and boost into the natural. But these Phoenixes are going to be able to come out here. 3 of them are going to start going to work. The boost was saved for when he saw these Phoenixes, but if you noticed, Phoenixes are just as fast as boosted medevacs, and well cleaned up there. And now we see a 30 supply lead for our red Protoss player.
Yeah, a lot of that is in the, well, not a lot of it, but, you know, 20-ish of it is in that worker supplies, getting up to that 67 for that full 3-base saturation, and he's going to be mining off of the 6 gases as well. So he's going to have really good income, of course, once this Terran orbital ends up landing over at the third. The power of mules will kind of make up the difference for our Terran player. But more production being added on, and the thing to note is that one lovely Ghost Academy going to be coming down. EMP can be so important as we get into this later stages of the game. I don't think we've actually seen a Templar Archives in this particular game.
No, he's going away from it. He's going instead towards a charge lot. He's even getting an extra Oracle in here. Now the Templar Archives going down, but of course way later compared to the earlier games that we've seen already. And it's going to be a while until Storm or any of that sort of business gets up and running. Viking's going to go ahead and pick off the hallucinated Phoenix, make sure that there's no more scout going. And once again, TerranItUp does not have a lot of medevacs with his army because he's been losing them while he's trying to get some drop harassment done. At this point in time, you know, he's got his third up and running, and it hasn't been scouted, I believe, from the Protoss player. He's still scanning, still getting to know the composition and location of his opponent's army. But at this point in time, you know, it's like both players are really into their flow. +2 just now on the way for our Terran player, so it's a little late, but I mean, +1 is just about to finish, so he's even ahead of his opponent in that regard. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. TerranItUp is about to move out with his army now.
Yeah, he's got a reasonably sized army, and again, despite the supply difference overall, the army supply is remarkably similar. And with Storm not being a factor, we'll have to see how the AoE of these Colossi is going to play into this engagement. In previous games, it hasn't been fantastic. Nice use of those Phoenix to pick up the Widow Mines themselves, climbing in from basically all sides as the Colossi raining down absolute death and destruction. Vikings are busy worrying about the Phoenix while the Colossi tear up that Bio army, and there's a few Marauders still left that can do some nice damage, but this is 5 Colossi on the ground.
Yeah. That was about as bad an engagement as TerranItUp could have asked for. That was about as good an engagement as tnerb could have hoped for. Now he's got Storm just about to finish up, and even a Dark Shrine. The Oracle got some kills off, I believe, during this engagement. This is rough. This is really rough. That Oracle got 16 SCV kills, by the way, while that engagement was happening. So, the tier 1 units, you know, by way of Marines and Marauders and some Vikings fighting this, not gonna happen, my friend. Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
We need to see some, like, godlike micro coming out. TerranItUp is pre-splitting up his army. No medevacs with this force. These High Templar are still making their way across the map, so the forward pylon's a little bit out of position to be able to help out that much. Regardless, when this engagement goes down, it is going to be very, very difficult for TerranItUp to have any sort of, you know, advantage.
Yeah, of course, the other worrying thing is he lost so many Vikings previously. He's going to have such a hard time contending with this high Colossi count. But There's going to be, well, I guess the recall, this engagement is not actually going to happen. Ooh, a couple of Zealots winging their way into the main base. How annoying is that? But the real threat is going to be the Dark Templar just south of that.
That was, you know what he did is he pulled the majority of the army away from that third, and in doing so, oh, good scanning to catch those Dark Templar. 2 are going to go down almost instantly. The third one is going to be able to get away. So he attacked the third, recalled once the army was out of position, and then went ahead and got those Zealots and Dark Templar into that the main base. So that was really well played from tnerb. Some next level play from the Platinum Protoss.
Indeed. Now this Dark Templar going to be poking in there before the missile turret is actually completed. And going to be chasing away those SCVs. Oh, might actually pick himself up a Widowmine kill, which is nice. Every kind of advantage that he can get, tnerb absolutely needs. Now we do have, I believe on the production tab somewhere, was a 4th command center finishing up, which again, if it is turned into an orbital, or even if it's not, it'll help kind of mitigate these heavy SCV losses that are being sustained by TerranItUp.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, at this point in time, 4 bases up for the Protoss player. You know, the production tab tells the story. There's a lot coming out by way of, you know, a Colossus and a Phoenix. I mean, it's pretty comparable in terms of production now that I actually look at it, but you look at the armies. So much Colossi, so much High Templar, a lot of energy. It's a lot of Storms. There's an Oracle even in the mix. You can detect now the engagement seems to be coming down. Colossi getting a little bit worked on by this process. One Storm does go down. Starts to clean up another one just to kind of zone out this army. One Phoenix is going to die for free. Now TerranItUp is going to go ahead and get his army pre-split into what it needs to be in order to make this engagement. And that Mothership Core can recall if it needs to. He's got plenty of energy. And I think he might do just that, or he's just going to go ahead and work on those rocks on the other side of the map to be able to make his way back home. But TerranItUp looks to be trying to force an engagement, and I don't know if it's the right decision. Oracle coming in, Storms going down, Colossi for days, Phoenixes for days. Storms are actually really good now, and unfortunately for our Terran player, it looks like tnerb is going to go ahead and get another game in hand, or actually 1 game back away from this this Terran player, because he's currently 3-0 down, and well, 3-1 is going to be a lot better than 3-0.
Yeah, it's still going to be an uphill battle for tnerb, but he's starting to make that headway. He's starting to carve out for himself that comeback story. GG gets called. tnerb will take game number 4 of this best of 9.
We've got some cheese action going down for you, so we're going to get right into these player introductions. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Coda. It is representing Ashfire Gaming, currently up 3-1 against this Protoss opponent, the Red Terran player, TerranItUp.
And on the left side, our blue Protoss. He has started that comeback story, but can he finish it out? Thus far, he's looking pretty standard. This is tnerb.
And the SCV that just completed the barracks, or no. So okay, the scouting SCV is getting to work on these this probe here. The SCV that just completed the barracks is chilling. Going to be met by his friend there. 2 barracks going down. It's going to be Marines, of course, not Reapers. No gas going down for the Terran player just yet. And the location of that SCV should spell a little bit of trouble, and tnerb scouts it. This is a really big pickup for him, and now he's going to be able to respond to this. He's got a Zealot instantly on the way, as you know, to just smell this type of business out. Pretty good start. It's going to be a little bit of a telling, thing to see where TerranItUp takes it from here. Because as he continue with the cheese, he has been scouted. He kind of has to, having made this big of an investment this early on.
And unfortunately, we're already starting to see the nerves take place for tnerb. His Cyber Core late, his Gateway even a little bit late as well. Now he's going to be dropping down that second Gateway, but again, this could have been that much more quick if he would have been going for, just a slightly different build, slightly different timings. The SCV does get stopped, but there is that second SCV, I believe, somewhere nearby as it can come to finish the bunker if this Zealot gets pushed away.
And the Zealot is getting pushed away. No more shields. He's taking hull damage now. One more SCV coming into tow. I think TerranItUp should pull another SCV to get some more, safety just in case he loses that one. This is a really, really low Zealot. All probes are getting pulled now. The bunker's so close to getting finished up, but the Terran Marines are all going to get surrounded. Now the bunker goes down, and no more ability. Now the Marines get in, it's going to die almost instantaneously. Gets surrounded from the probes. But now the Zealot's just about to die. 2 Marines here cannot take out a single mothership core. Another bunker going down. And now the Marines could actually probably take it out if they wanted to. Nothing else on the production tab for the Protoss player. The bunker is going to get surrounded and finally taken out and canceled. But 4 Marines here can actually fight this mothership core. There's a lot of stutter stepping needed to be done here, Cyber. And he's continuing on with the cheese. And if you start with the cheese, man up and keep going with it. I don't know if tnerb is reacting well to this at all right now.
His probes are starting to get into this situation where they're low on shields, low on HP, which means quite a few of them will be picked off very nicely as the Marine numbers continue to grow. We are now in the situation where Terran is ahead on workers, which oftentimes with this cheese, you have to sacrifice that eco, but he's now killed enough probes to where he is going to be ahead, and this is just fantastic for TerranItUp. He continues to pick off more Zealots as long as he controls well, and making a little bit of a mistake there, taking a bit more damage on those Marines than he needs to, but if he gets more probes, it'll be worth it. There's Photon Overcharge. Can tnerb survive?
Yeah, it seems like he's finally going to, but has he lost too much? At what cost, Cyber? At what cost? Yes. More Marines coming in, and once this Photon Overcharge goes down, there's a bunker at the main, and TerranItUp is really, really dedicating himself heavily to this cheese. And I can't blame him. It has worked off pretty well so far. And we've just seen probes and gateways on the way for the Protoss player. I don't think it's exactly what he wanted to be producing at minute 640 of the game. Nothing else back home in creation, a bunker going on the high ground. These Marines are going to be perfectly happy to make their way up higher. That SCV is going to go in the main and actually not get Photon Overcharged for a little bit here. More Marines making their way across. I want to see like a factory go back down and back home or something like that. Photon Overcharge has finished. That mothership core is really low on shield and health, and if you lose that, that's pretty much GG. You can't really do much else about it.
Yep, probes once again pulled off the line. Again, these probes are pretty darn weak, and with a 3-1 score, TerranItUp is looking strong to head into that match point game. He doesn't have it won just yet. He did make it work one way or another, as silly as it may seem. The Stalker coming out a day late, $1 short is tnerb, down to just 2 workers, and he is probably a good bit salty.
I can't believe he made this work. He lost the early bunker. A little bit weird on the control, but there's the GG call, the cheese. He got scouted,
Gentlemen, to Vani Research Station, perhaps our last map of this finals best of 9. The man who's leading 4-1 is doing a good job representing Ashfire Gaming in this southern position. This is TerranItUp.
Yeah, currently up 4-1 against his opponent, spawning in the northern portion of the map. Is a Red Protoss player, represent nobody but himself, currently, as you stated, down 1-4. Trying to find his way back, just got cheese. It is the Red Protoss player, tnerb. And he's already sending out a nice little probe there just to see what he can see, just to make sure he's not getting proxy barracks again. And TerranItUp not going to do that, of course, going right back to the tried and true. I'm looking to see if he's going to throw down another early supply depot right after he completes his barracks to finish the wall and go into a standard CC timing, as well as getting reactor barracks, early factory, early starport, and start doing his Marine drops like he has been.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see that at all. In this case, the probe will be able to get into the base, and again, just like the majority of the previous games, this probe is not for something devious. There's the Cyber Core going to be starting up as well for tnerb, so really unlikely that he's going to be doing anything too crazy. Like a good TerranItUp is going to be making sure that there's no Protoss dirt going to be happening inside of his main base, though. He's keeping this SCV locked on that probe.
Yeah, we actually see a factory before CC, which I don't think he has been doing. And it's interesting to know that he's going to go 1-1-1 before he goes into a second CC. He's getting Marines out now. I want to see some Widowmine drops, and I hope that's what we do see. But like I said, interesting to know, and it's interesting because this is Vani Research Station, and not only does it make a little bit of sense to maybe go ahead and take your natural a little sooner just because of how defensible it is, but it makes a little sense for you to also go 1-1-1 because of how undefensible drops are on that, what you'd expect to be safe at home natural.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like Vani, is it does have that in-base natural on the low ground, not on the high ground like something silly like Secret's Ring, but also it is wide open. It's not a total, like, I'm just going to sit on my 2 bases and you can never attack me map. It's got all sorts of options, and like you were talking about, it's the 1 base 1-1-1, which, again, if it's immediately into aggression, perhaps it is the truest form of the 1-1-1. He's going to be putting out that pressure, putting out that aggression pretty early on.
We do see Widow Mines, rather, on the production tab, and likely going to see Medivacs, no Banshees in this matchup. But a Stargate is the call for tnerb, who scouted the little slightly later CC timing, which, of course, isn't happening. Scan going down, and it is going to catch right in the middle of the scan is the Stargate. So he knows exactly what he's up against. And if you want to play a bit safer, you can go ahead and get that turret up after Engineering Bay. But if you want to commit to the drop, you can actually get this across the base quicker than the Oracle can do damage back home. And if you have a Widow Mine in your mid-roll line, it one-hits Oracles. Instead, he's going to go ahead and throw down a reactor on the factory, and hopefully, fairly shortly, a orbital command or a command center on his natural.
Yep, the CC just starting as you wish. And the medevac pops out. There's the big load up, and he is going to be boosting his way across the map. Now, again, just like in game, I believe number 4 on Secret Spring, we're not seeing immediate production out of that Stargate. Which actually...
No, where is it?
Am I tripping?
What happened to it?
Wait a second.
Did he cancel it?
It's a robo. He canceled it immediately.
He canceled it when it was scanned.
Yeah. All right. That explains why there's no production out of it.
I was like, what? Where's the Oracle? But like you said, no. I mean, the drop's coming in. I don't know if that was a good move because there's literally nothing here now to defend it.
Yeah. I mean, he does pull the probes quite nicely. So
yeah, pulls the probes. The Widow Mine's still going to be there. But what he's done now is saying by canceling that, he's taken all the time that would have gone towards getting that Oracle out. Oh, you don't pick up right now because now it's going to take all the whole damage onto that medevac. Okay, so what I'm saying is since he's taken so much time to cancel the Stargate, it's going to be a long time before he has any sort of detection. And that Widow Mine is going to be happy to go ahead and explode on these probes as soon as it's done in its cooldown session. Yeah,
I don't know if tnerb has the timing. Oh, okay. So yeah, he actually does get the nice kill on that. Very well done. No, never admit that you're wrong. Always just pretend like you're a perfect human being. But, okay, there's going to be the Twilight Council. And again, tnerb, he's doing the same sort of thing that he has been doing a couple of times in this series. Traditionally, historically, against TerranItUp in this series, what tnerb is shaping up to do does not work. It almost works, but he hasn't quite got it.
Ooh, lots of probes going down here to this drop. The targeted medevac is going to pick up and lift out. It does scan the timing of the robotics bay, so he knows exactly what's happening right now. He knows what he's up against. Should feel pretty comfortable. One thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is the case anymore, but if we go back home and check the natural of TerranItUp's base, he's got no orbital command on that. So that's a little bit telling that he's just forgotten that little piece of macro. And I hate to highlight player mistakes, but it's just one of those things that's like, come on, throw an orbital command down. We do have +1 and stim on the way. And in the production tab of the Protoss, it's just +1 armor, probes, and a pylon. So you look at the production tabs right now, and one is like pretty damn long by way of the Terran player, and the other one, just not as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, our Protoss player, kind of his weak point, has been keeping up with that macro as the game goes on later and later. We see TerranItUp just sort of organically has an advantage through, in a kind of boring way, through superior mechanics. I guess that's probably the easiest way to put it. Now, this medevac is going to be picked off really quite nicely, leaving his Marines completely stranded inside of this base. And I don't know that they actually pick up any probe kills. They pretty much just get cleaned up.
Yeah, I think they got one, but like you said, pretty much got cleaned up, and now we see the orbital command getting... Is it built? No, he's still making SCVs. Oh. He still hasn't built an orbital command. What's going on? TerranItUp, come on now. Get your... This, I mean, it's a big deal. It's not something to, it's something to laugh about. Oh, he forgot his orbital command. But if you don't have scans, if you don't have mules, like, that's, upwards of 20 supply, in the mid game, and that's huge.
It is a pretty big deal. Will it necessarily be a game breaker? Maybe, maybe not. We will have to see. Now, third base starting to come up for tnerb, but this is the kind of point where he just needs units. Does he necessarily have enough to stop all of these? Well, picking off a Viking is a nice start, but now he does have to be very wary of these Widow Mines.
Yeah, and they're phasing out. They're basically sectioning out an entire part of the battlefield because this is just Marines here. He's going to go ahead and cancel the third. That Colossi could potentially fight it with the support of the other units, but he's not going to take it in place with those Widow Mines here. There are observers on the map, but not with the main army. So it'd be a pretty difficult act in order to take this army on. One Marauder, nothing else supporting this. No, I mean, TerranItUp likes his early medevacs and then just chooses to not build them for a little bit there, and I think that's definitely a mistake. This army has a shelf life if you don't have medevacs. It can only stay on the field for so long. The Colossi does spot one medevac. The phase out from the force field's going to do nicely to pick off about half of the army, and I think that's about all TerranItUp is going to be able to do. He has to go home.
Now, there's a critical piece of this puzzle missing for tnerb, and that is going to be, of course, Colossi range, extended thermal lance. It is not out on the field if we check the upgrades tab. Instead, I mean, it's nowhere even on the production tab, so there's always that potential where if a big engagement does happen without that, well, okay, now it's going to be starting. So there was a lot of potential there, and there still is a window of opportunity to hit before this kicks in, and that's such a crucial upgrade for Colossi.
Yeah, it's massive. I think it's from 7 range to 9 range, which is just Marauders. It seems to be it's the limiting factor with Marauders. If you don't have extended thermal lance, Marauders can do absolutely amazing amounts of damage against you with the medevacs. And once you get the extended thermal lance, then it gives your Colossi the ability to step back behind the meat grinder and do the damage away from the battlefield, the sophisticated pieces of machinery that they seem to be. TerranItUp has gone ahead and he hasn't taken his third just yet. He's kind of happy to sit outside of his main with his forces and build up. At this point in time, once you've made note, if you're a Terran player, of the Colossi, and he goes ahead, scans, sees the robotics bay is researching, and it could probably only be one thing. I don't think it's getting observer speed. But with if you notice that your opponent's going Colossi, which, let's be honest, is pretty damn standard, you should probably start, if possible, double pumping Vikings out of 2 starports. So there goes the third. But throw down another starport and start chunking out those Vikings, because it is so key to eliminate Vikings in the early part of the game, or the fight. In the early fight, Colossi gone easy, right? If the Colossi can stay alive and stick with their army, get the damage done that they need to, that's when you start losing engagements.
Now we see the other piece of the puzzle, the part of the unit composition that traditionally is always missing for tnerb. It is going to be that Templar Archives, but is there going to be the big engagement that decides the game for TerranItUp before Storm can kick in? Again, previously that's been a pretty big deal. In this case, this Warp Prism has an opportunity to do some pretty serious damage. This natural is completely exposed, and these SCVs are very vulnerable. You can totally move in with that Warp Prism if you want to. Yeah,
he's just staying outside, and I think what he's going to actually do is, since he just saw that the observer got picked off, he knows his own observer got picked off, he's going to wait for this army to make its way across the map, and then when that happens, the Warp Prism will go into the natural. It's chilling for a very good reason. He knows he can put it in there. He's waiting for that army to move out, and then once he engages, and it might not be in time, right? But he still has a lane. He can get that Warp Prism in there, that little corner, if it can happen. It's rough. But what he was trying to do is waiting for that army to move out before he went ahead and got that Warp Prism into the natural.
Now we are seeing some minor supply blocks going to be coming up for TerranItUp. I didn't actually notice if he hit that giant supply block earlier.
Supply block.
He hit like a 151 supply block. Not quite as bad. It wasn't for quite as long, as far as I know. So, he's being a little bit more on top of his macro with that. Now, the other thing to note is that we do have those Protoss upgrades coming in, but it's going to be level 3 armor and at the same time level 1 weapons. So, again, plenty of Protoss players do like to prioritize armor over the attack upgrades. And finally, those Zealots, they move in, but the missile turrets, they do the damage.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is a nice, still amount of damage that can be done.
And see, like I said, he waited for the army to move out before he got his War Prism into the natural. And he's going to have to pull SCVs, but at the same time, this is not the main engagement. This is the engagement that's going to be going down. TerranItUp showing that he likes using Widow Mines. Probes are pulled. There's not enough for tnerb to fight this. One Colossi is almost instantly dead. His whole damage down about half. That Nexus is gone. And tnerb is making it happen. Storm going down on basically nothing but the Vikings. That's not what you want to use your storms for. You want your storms to go down on the meat of the army. You want to go down on the bio. Unfortunately, tnerb's got these zealots in on the natural, and he's stopped the mining. But at the same time, this is we're watching how the mothership core is going to get picked out of position. Huge! This is massive. Unfortunate for tnerb, and this is going to be a pretty rough engagement if he makes it happen.
Okay, so another very important piece here is going to be the 3 Templar, which are coming over from the natural expansion. They've got a lot of energy on them, and for a while they weren't actually a part of this engagement. First Storm does go down. This is an extremely important choke point if our Terran player walks up into it. But Colossi and Storm can do tremendous damage. There it is, the AoE that makes Terrans cry everywhere. He skims forward, pushing up the ramp, but with so few medevacs, Storm is getting shredded.
Oh my god, that's shredded is an understatement. Not only that, but TerranItUp lost his natural back home. That was just...
Terran tears.
Yo,
that is the stream of salt that is absolutely, that engagement was so awful for TerranItUp.
That was a bit of a throw, in my opinion. I think he needed to have... Yeah, I think so. That was a massive throw. Okay, he needed to have dealt with the drop, like snipe the Nexus and then go home.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Catalina, to map number 7. We are getting into some old school territory with a potentially very Terran-favored map, but our Terran on the left side, currently up 4-2 in this best of 9 for the Defender League Finals. Representing Ashfire Gaming, this is TerranItUp.
And his opponent, currently down 4-2, fighting his way back, though, with a very solid victory on Vonnie Research Station. Spawning, I suppose, what you'd call the 5 o'clock position of Catalina. It is the red Protoss player, tnerb. And it's going to be kind of telling to see where these two players take this game in the early stages here. And a Reaper on the way for TerranItUp, something we haven't seen from him from at least game 2. And this probe actually getting whittled down a lot, and with some SCV micro could potentially die fairly soon. Now the shields are getting re-upped. But a Reaper, solid call, get some scouting done, and a lot of room to work with on a map like Catalina.
Yep. Everyone likes to talk about how good of a Reaper map this is. And we do have the reactor coming on the barracks immediately after that Reaper. But potentially as we move into some of the other stages of the game, we can start to see elevatoring happening between one of the potential third locations and the main. And of course, this main is just huge. So there's all sorts of shenanigans that we can see. We've already seen not a huge commitment on drops from TerranItUp, but he certainly does mix drops in. He certainly does like to use them, and that can benefit him a whole lot on this map.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing is that he kind of produces medevacs to do drops with, and then loses the medevacs after getting a little bit done with the drops. Not game-ending done, and not necessarily what you'd call useful harass, but I mean, he has been successful with it, so let's not take anything away from him in that regard as this Reaper makes its way and gets surrounded. Surrounded, saw that coming. Yeah, that was never a good idea. Don't put your Reaper in the middle of a mineral line. Gets it for basically nothing. It didn't kill anything, and it scouted, but it didn't confirm the existence of a second gas. I don't think it did. Regardless, he doesn't know that the second natural has been taken. He's going right into a command center himself and a factory.
Yeah, the scout was not the most useful thing. If it would have scouted, say, the Stargate going down, that would have been a lot more useful. Now, maybe we'll actually see the scan come into play for TerranItUp because he has been featuring scans as one of his scouting utilities. But the other thing that he's been heavily featuring is reactor play and the 1-1-1. In this case, it is going to be the 2 base variant of that 1-1-1, but it still does open you up to some nice aggressive options. drops being one of them, and Widow Mines are extremely powerful, as we've already seen in this series. tnerb doesn't always react as perfectly as he could.
Yeah, and one thing too is to say is that TerranItUp hasn't fully utilized Widow Mines as well as he could. He's dropped them in the mineral lines probably on 2 or 3 occasions, but he hasn't really committed to Widow Mine drops. And I'm serious; those are game-ending potential there. And he has not really done it so much as I would like to see. He does scan, he does see the Stargate producing, and it's getting chrono boost. So you don't really chrono boost out Phoenixes. It's likely going to be an Oracle. Widow Mines in the production tab, Marines, a engineering bay as well going down, and we're likely going to see turrets. Robo Bay is the follow-up from tnerb as well. This is looking fairly standard, but one thing to note, a tech lab on the starport, and we see a Banshee coming out. You don't see it this often in this matchup.
Yeah, one of the things is that there's always that delay factor of, maybe if it's not the earliest hitting Banshee, it can still do a fair bit of damage a slight bit later. Widowmine in an awkward position. I thought for sure he was going to be going for that placement where you kind of hide it behind the reactor, because that can be fantastic. Now, there are enough Marines to scare away this Oracle, and as long as it takes a little bit of damage, these 4 Marines in the kind of main base will be able to deal with it. Regardless, it does get pushed away. Now, the other thing to note is, tnerb actually did not see the starport. Technically, he hasn't seen really anything in the middle of the base, so he completely misses the Banshee, and now the route that he's taking back home is so far out of the way that this Banshee is going to go, unless something crazy happens, it's going to go completely unscouted until it's in the mineral line.
Yeah, and there's no forge, no detection, no observers on the map right now, I believe. So it's going to be very difficult once Cloak is finished up to deal with this. Cloak is a little bit away from finishing, but there aren't a lot of stalkers out there to deal with the Banshee. So with good micro and good control, those 2 stalkers could potentially deal with it. But I mean, 1 probe going on, photon overcharge instantly called. He needs to bring the Banshee back. He notices, and it's taking a lot of damage for free, down to 50 health, getting 1 kill. You noticed how the Widow Mine was placed, and you remarked how it was in an awkward position, because he placed it there to protect the starport from getting scouted. But even if it does get the kill on the Oracle, the Oracle would be in range of scouting the starport, so not the best Widow Mine selection for me to do that.
Yeah, certainly some things could be a little bit tighter, and again, with that Cloak finishing up pretty darn late, the Observer is out. Now, the other thing, just 1 Observer currently, but the other thing that can happen is that Observer could be in the wrong spot if this Banshee decides to move back in and do some damage. Nice spread on a couple of the missile turrets around the base. Should be relatively protected from many of the nasty things that could be coming his way from Protoss. But for now, it's into that Phoenix, potentially Phoenix Colossi. We'll have to see how much commitment there actually is to Phoenix. But, I mean, it did very well for him on Secret Spring.
Yeah, and I'm just shaking my head here because you've made an investment as a Terran player into this Banshee. You've gotten Cloak, and you've gotten the Tech Lab Starport, and you haven't built medevacs out of it. And that's an investment, 100 mineral gas for Cloak itself. And then, of course, building the Banshees 150, 100. So that's already 250 minerals and 200 gas out the window just for that, not even including the cost of the Tech Lab and the otherwise time that you're lost producing medevacs. And the Banshee is going to die in a couple of seconds here, and it got 1 kill. So not only that, but he's not building another Banshee. And, I would consider it a strong rule of thumb that if you're going to invest in Cloak, get at least 2 Banshees. Don't... because if you're investing in that much into it, you've slowed everything else down. You've slowed down your stem, you've slowed down your medevacs, you've slowed down, everything you could possibly want in a game that's going to go into the mid game versus a Protoss opponent. And it's really, it's self-done. He shot himself in his own foot. It's one of those things that was just like, why build a Banshee? It's not standard for a reason.
Yep. Now, the third base is going to be coming up for Protoss, but TerranItUp does not have a third base on the docket just yet. He's instead going to be finishing up more production facilities, getting out more starports, and could even drop down an extra racks on top of that tech lab that he constructed a little bit earlier. Not using it just yet, but Stimpack is going to be finishing up in a couple of seconds here. And we do have the Twilight Council, so again, shaping up pretty standard for what we've seen out of tnerb. And we'll have to see again, will the Phoenixes be that magic extra piece of the puzzle that he needs to really take the game back and be 1 step closer to evening up this score completely?
Yeah, it's interesting to note that this Oracle, as it makes its way into the main to get a couple of kills, is that TerranItUp in the first game took an earlier third than he took his natural, as the Oracle is going to get snapped by the mine. He took an earlier third than he took up to 5 racks, right? So he expanded to the third before he added on the efficient number of 5 racks per 2 saturated mineral lines. And he did the opposite here. I think he went up to higher racks numbers before. Nope, actually, I take that. Well, okay, yeah, he's got a decent amount, but he's also got double producing starports. So the early games, like he so thoroughly dominated those early games. I think in part because he hit such weird timings. His pushes didn't have medevacs, a lot of bio, a lot of Vikings, and they met at a point where tnerb didn't have the Colossi numbers to really thoroughly have put up a fight out in the middle of the map. Now, tnerb has said, I'm not going to produce as many observers. The time spent used on those observers is now going into Colossi production, and instead of going right into Storm as early as I can, I'm going to use Phoenix, because now the Vikings are going to want to shoot at them, and it really makes the engagements, fall way differently than what you'd expect.
Yeah, and it's one of those cases where in a ladder game, you don't get the opportunity to make these over-series kind of adjustments, but that's exactly what we're seeing from tnerb. He's getting his adjustment pants on, and he is like, all right, I've kind of figured you out. You're playing pretty much the same way almost every single game, with the exception of the cheese game, and it worked on Secret Spring. Let's try it again. Now, of course, there is a lot of positional play that still comes down to it. And one thing that is nice is this Zealot counterattack in the north. Kind of as this army is getting ready to potentially engage, you always have to be thinking about those counterattacks, because as we saw on Vonnie Research Station,
it ended the game.
It ended the game. It did certainly cement TerranItUp into such a bad position that he was like, I got to move up this ramp.
Yeah, that was not a good decision in the end. The Planetary Command will finish before the Zealots are able to kill it, but I don't know if they'll be able to completely defend itself. Yeah, it looks like it'll be able to just survive, as enough of these Zealots are going to go down to the Planetary. So good hold from TerranItUp, but at the same time, it's taking his attention away from this engagement, divvying up his units. A lot of Vikings here. They're going to get in on top of these Colossi, targeting down the Colossi. Pew pew go the laser beams. Phoenix is getting in on top of the Vikings. Zealots are able to get a little bit into the Marauders' faces here, but it looks like tnerb's Colossi are just putting out so much damage, and not enough damage from the Vikings has been done. Still 4 Colossi putting out all sorts of damage here. Stimmed Marines coming forward, no medevacs healing, and the army's gone. There's no more army. That's it.
Now, the nice thing is these Vikings would have potentially been able to do a bit more damage if they would have stepped forward instead of just standing in that in the Phoenix and the Stalker fire. If you're going to commit with the Vikings, commit with the Vikings. Now in the main base, Zealots again doing more damage. In total, 14 SCVs have gone down in just this short amount of time, and these are the sort of moves that won tnerb previous game. Warp Prism being utilized very nicely, the sort of stuff that we see from the higher end players, but it's doing so much work in this game here.
Yeah, this game's over. The command center was lost in the main. Unfortunately, TerranItUp is going to keep fighting here when he probably should just GG out and get into the second game, get his mind right for the next series of games he's going to have to fight. It's going to be forced into a game 8, and he had a 4-1 lead, and now we see it into 4-3. And something tells me that psychologically, tnerb is taking a bit of a bit is an understatement. He's taking a massive psychological advantage right now.
Yeah. Now, there are still opportunities for him to mess it up, but like you said, it's pretty much over. Just looking at the supply count, we've got double for our Protoss guy, and it's not a situation where it's like, oh, but Terran upgrades are so fantastically ahead. He's like infinitely ahead in upgrades, and so he can be super efficient with his units. It's not even one of those situations. It's only going to be getting worse as we get Storm finishing up in just a little while. And of course, Protoss, if he wants, he can sit back, take another base, and just macro up even harder.
Yeah, High Templar now involved in this army, as like you said, Storm about to finish up. The minerals and gas are going into the thousands for the Protoss player because he knows how far ahead he is. He's kind of playing with one hand at this point in time. He doesn't really need to. Yeah, it's. I mean, one Colossi, if he wants, is going to be dancing around. It's just going to be very difficult for TerranItUp to even eke his way back into this, and if I'm him, I'm gonna go ahead and just GG out and get my mind ready for the next game. Vikings have been landed. to, you know, do what damage they can on the ground. There's just not enough forces here. The Observer's in position. tnerb understands what's going on, comes up with the Colossi. Storm going down on nothing except for the dead bodies that are already died. SCVs have been pulled off the second. A great Storm going down on there. And you know what? There's just nothing else for TerranItUp. GG called. tnerb taking game number 7. Hey lads and lasses, welcome back. It's game 8. Feel like we've been here before. It's Terran vs Protoss for you for the championship of Defender League Season 4 ASL action for you. Once again, my name is Tyrannus and I'm joined by Cybert. We'll get right into these player introductions. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Iron Fortress, representing nobody but his fine self, the red Protoss player, tnerb. You hit that chrono boost, tnerb.
He's hitting that chrono boost real good, but in the south, we have the man representing Ashfire Gaming up 4-3, but can he close it out? That's the story. This is TerranItUp.
Man, he's like that one friend you have. He's like really good looking. He works out. He looks after himself. You know, you get him all. You know, you pregame. You go to the bar. You're all hitting on girls, and this guy just cannot seal the deal with the girl. Like he's got like, you know, a really decent girl at the bar. He's talking her up, and then the first word out of his mouth is like, "Yeah, hi," and then she's just like, "Go away." And he's on game. He's got game point for the last 3 games now, and he can't seal it. And it's like, God, it's so close yet so far away.
But tnerb with the absolute determination. I mean, a lot of players in that situation, down in a 1-3 situation, they get cheesed.
Ooh,
it's
1-4.
1-4.
Damn.
Yeah, and then that's like where he goes, and then he's just like, tnerb's like, no way. I'm going rock solid. And he's just like smacking back. He's not making big mistakes that he was sometimes making in those other games. He's playing defensively, yes. You know, say what you will about defensive play, but he's playing smart and he's adjusting to his opponent. So tnerb absolutely earning those victories. Some of it comes down to that counterattack to that multi-pronged play.
Yeah, tnerb is like the ugly duckling in high school. That one girl that was not good looking, and everyone was like, "What's the deal with?" And her name was, what was her name? It was like Sarah or like Jessica or something like that. Like nobody cared about Sarah or Jessica, and eventually, like 8th grade, you know, ugly, a little bit overweight, whatever, big eyebrows, and then like come 12th grade, you know, senior year, you're like, what happened to her over summer? And then everyone wants her, and then she goes off with some, you know, rich Northeasterner dude, and he owns like a Fortune 500 company, and then abandons you in the dust, and then you never see her again. That's kind of how he is, and he's you know, taking things back now. But this Reaper from TerranItUp, that was pretty good. Come on,
that was an oddly specific scenario. Is there anything you want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about it. I was just very emotional. Okay,
I'm here for you. We can turn this into a support cast.
The Reaper dies again.
Ooh,
the Reaper's dead.
Yep.
That's my heart, Sarah. That's my heart.
Wait, I thought it was Jessica.
Sarah Jessica Parker. No.
Oh my.
Oh god. Okay, well, Widow Mines and Marines and starports and orbital commands. I mean, there's nothing crazy here, you know.
No. Nothing too wild indeed. Now again, TerranItUp, there's a couple of different things that we need to check for. Number 1, his build is looking like almost identical to what we've seen in the previous games, which means what are going to be his strengths there? Well, of course, hitting just before giant upgrades kick in for our Protoss player. Now, TerranItUp has been able to do a bit of damage with those early drops, but like you mentioned previously, it's never game-ending damage. The closest thing he got to that was Overgrowth, where I believe it was 9 kills with a Widow Mine.
Yeah.
And even that, he had some other moves that really sealed the deal. Other Marines being mixed in, and of course, some just nice engagements. So he really needs to either step it up with the Widow Mine drops, or other drops, just some sort of early damage, or he needs to really commit to some sort of mid-game, hit before Storm, hit before there's too many Colossi timing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you remarked about, you know, some type of drop is this scan goes down right at the right time to see that Stargate. It's, you know, the same thing has happened every time. The Stargate has been spotted by a good scan. But one thing you were talking about is you know, the drops. What do the drops do? What do they accomplish? And for me, and this is a mantra, and I've said it before casting, but I'll say it again now. Basically, every, you know, second that you apply to harassing your opponent, you can expect your opponent to dedicate 2 seconds to dealing with that harassment, right? So if you force your opponent to react, you're already winning. So the least you can do is kill a probe or two, and the most you want to do, you know, kill a couple of probes, get them to pull probes, you know, throw a photon overcharge, and then keep doing it. Keep harassing, keep going, and that way that is in essence, right? If we're going as subjectively as possible, that is a part of macro, is forcing your opponent to not macro, because all this is a game of if you're beating your opponent or not. It doesn't matter how you do that, you know. And if we're talking about macro, you know, we think going back home, getting your economy up and running, getting your production up and running, not getting supply blocked. But, you know, if we think about it in terms of what, you know, we're making our opponent do, another essence of winning the macro game is making sure your opponent himself can't macro.
Yeah, that's actually a very good way to look at it. Sort of the latent damage, kind of the stuff behind the scenes that you don't necessarily always see because it's not always on a graph. There's no kind of opportunity lost sort of graph. Now, in this case, not a huge opportunity loss. Yeah, was the reaction like technically slow if you want to compare it with the top-end guys in the world? Yeah, it was slow in comparison to them, but it was fast enough to not allow that drop to do any damage, which again, opportunity cost was indeed lost there. Now, this once again, we're seeing these observers just spawning basically everything, as there's one camp on top of one of the drops, but now we've got a second drop moving out.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same exact type of drop too. Just a bunch of Marines and one medevac, one Widowmine. This is nothing's gonna come out of this medevac. He's just gonna lose it completely. So my Terran heart aches. Photon overcharge going down into the natural. Dude, he is gonna lose this medevac too. He needs to boost out of there. He's gonna lose it. One more shot and it's dead. Oh! Wow. Dude, this is not... Okay, Phoenix. There goes the Phoenix.
He doesn't get the Widowmine either.
And he doesn't lose a Phoenix.
Yeah. So the Widowmine goes down with the medevac. Phoenix all survive as well. This is the exact opposite, of course, what TerranItUp actually needs. The advantage, where does it come in? Third CC, potentially also the upgrade advantage. These are kind of the points. Wait a second, I didn't even realize he got the armory, but he still doesn't have 1-1.
He wants it to finish up right in time, right? So it's not he's not done building the armory. So once the armory is done, then he'll kick right into +2.
Oh, he must have. I must have been tripping. I don't know if I missaw that or he like canceled the armory and then restarted it. Never mind. Yeah, I guess I'm tripping.
Yeah.
I guess I'm tripping.
So, but here's what I'm talking about, right? And this is pretty funny. While those drops were happening, tnerb's minerals and his gas went up almost to the 1,000, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at the supply, it's relatively even though if TerranItUp had not lost those medevac drops, all he had to do was like force a response out of his opponent, he would have been ahead. That's kind of what I'm talking about here, because it's 98 to 102 supply, very similar in that regard. And the third is going to be up slightly quicker for tnerb, but the third is already completed for TerranItUp and it's floating its way over to the position. So, I mean, fairly comfortable position here for both our players. But once again, TerranItUp, like, where are your medevacs? You don't have any now because you lost them both to dropping.
Yeah, again, sticking in true form, he builds those two right out of the gate, and then almost never again.
Yeah.
In some cases, that has been brutal. He has lost so many bio units that he doesn't necessarily need to. In other games, we actually kind of saw, as the game progressed, the reverse effect, where he had just too many medevacs, honestly, for the number of units. But that's typically a better problem to have than too few medevacs.
None at all. And typically, you want around 4 to 6 medevacs with your main army. That's about the perfect number. 4 to 6. Once you go more than 4 to 6, your kind of opportunity cost between having medevacs and Vikings is kind of you want more Vikings at that point in time. And 4 to 6 is not necessarily just for TVP. It's also good versus Terran as well as Zerg. So 4 to 6 is your healthy number. But, dude, just a lot of Vikings and no medevacs. I wonder where... He's doing this on purpose. He's obviously, right? Because he's making the decisions. But, you know, I wonder what told him, hey, make a ton of Vikings. Don't worry about medevacs at all, you know. I'd want to talk to him after the game and see where he's going with that. I wonder if it's something that he read or saw online or something like that. Because I'm not reading the same things he is if that's indeed where he saw it.
Yeah, the Phoenix are kind of the one thing that's really messing up those high Viking counts, because Vikings, they have a little bit more utility than just killing the Colossi. Yeah, not a lot, because when they land, they're not fantastic, but we've seen in a couple of different games throughout StarCraft's history, those Vikings absolutely are the critical difference. If you have Phoenix in the mix, messing up with the AI and really forcing these guys to push their multitasking to the limits, you get into that situation where suddenly having a massive number of Vikings and almost literally no medevacs is so much more detrimental.
Yeah, but in this engagement, now that I'm actually looking at the army move out, does TerranItUp take it? He takes this engagement, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if this is it.
I mean, there are Phoenixes along with it, but look at how many Vikings there are. The Phoenixes are now going to be coming along to the party, but I think TerranItUp was like, you know what? I'm tired of the Phoenixes, and I'm so tired of them. I'm just going to make so many Vikings. You're not going to be able to deal with it. Like, the only other time I've seen this many Vikings with an army at this point in the game is once I went mass Viking in a 4v4, and my good buddy Neuralisk will be able to, the Tyrannus Viking effect, just mass Viking. It's the only it goes up and it goes down. It's the only unit you need. But this is where the engagement's going down. Colossi starting to focus down these supply depots, and I don't know, Cyber, how's this going to go?
It really extremely depends on the positioning. Now, we've seen some Viking mistakes be made in the past, but how will they engage? Now it's really nicely because they're just dealing with the Phoenix, and the numbers are so far in favor of Terran. He did lose that CC, though, which is a pretty big problem, but if he can crush this army, it will be worth it. Oh, there's the recall.
There's the recall, but one Colossi getting caught out.
Yeah.
Here. That's going to be a nice pickup if he can see it.
Turn around,
there we go.
Oh, my
God, it just goes by so quickly. That little Colossi dies. We do have the third getting thrown down, and that is huge. It's massive for TerranItUp to lose that. That's almost why you build a tertiary fourth in your main, so in case you lose one, you can float it over. And at this point in time, TerranItUp really has to hit this timing, because what's that famous upgrade that we just see in the production tab there, Cybert?
Oh yeah, Psionic Storm, baby.
It's coming, and it's got a little timer, and essentially when that timer goes down, it's going to be all she wrote for TerranItUp, because he doesn't have the medevacs, and unless he can make this engagement happen right now, he's looking to catch that army out of position here. Unfortunately, this is the difficult thing, because there's nothing like telling me who's going to win this battle. It's all going to be about the engagement. And on Vonnie Research Station, the last time we saw an engagement like this, it went really poorly in the Terran players' favor. So, we'll see how things go.
All right, Vikings stepping forward. Again, they're a critical piece of this Colossi and splash damage denying force. Medevacs are on the production tab, but they're not with the heart of this army. Vikings stepping forward, getting free shots off on those Colossi. That is so important. If they can eliminate that AoE option for Protoss, Terran can crush through. A Colossi gets snapped up right as it's stepping out of production.
Wow.
That is such a good move. TerranItUp should be able to take this fantastic firing, but there's storms! Oh, that's what's going to tear him up.
Okay, land the Vikings. Dude, TerranItUp is taking it. Land the Vikings.
Yeah.
Just land the Vikings and you win the game. You have so much now. It doesn't matter. tnerb reinforcement, his supplies down to 82. TerranItUp 151 to 200 to 84 supply. tnerb on the back burner has managed to take out the natural back home with a Zealot run by, but this is too much bio. This is too many Vikings, too many Marines. Tyrannus didn't know what he was talking about. Mass Viking is the only thing you need to do against your Protoss opponent. The production is getting into now. The economy's tanked. Nothing is up going for tnerb now. TerranItUp, what are you doing? He's taking it. This is it, right? The finals, championship, Defender League. He's done it. There's no coming back for tnerb here. DTs, there's no DTs. There's nothing. That's it. Game.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, we're going to be coming down to an army clash. If this went full base trade scenario, Terran has a wonderful feature called Lift, which means Zealots, DTs, other ground-based attacking options do nothing. He's trying his heart out. tnerb is fighting that out. He knows this is his one opportunity. He wants that $25. He wants first place. He doesn't want to go home the loser. He doesn't want to go home second place. He's going to fight it out to the dirty, bitter end. But this is a huge, massive bio that he has to deal with.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, no more Phoenix production means that even if Terran player didn't have all of his buildings intact back home, if he lifted and put them in the corners, it'd be a very, very long time before we got any sort of benefit. Scans going down on the army. The storms would have to be absolutely magical. Sectioning out the army is TerranItUp to make sure he's not going to go ahead and get these storms for free. One storm going down, taking out a lot of that army, but Another one going forward and eating another storm. If he used Marauders instead of Marine and Marauders in this engagement, he would be fine, but they're the healing force of the Medivacs. These Vikings can go ahead and land now. There's not much really for them to deal with. The Concave is going to be good for TerranItUp. He's not going to mess up the engagement now. He knows exactly what he's doing. Pre-splitting his army before engaging, not going to overstim his units, going to go ahead and get his army divvied up now, eats one storm, another storm, walking right through it, doesn't really care because he's got the healing power of the Medivacs there, and unfortunately for tnerb, that's good game, well played, congrats to the champion of Season 4 Defender League, it is, representing Ashfire Gaming, tearing it up.